Data science is one of the hot new jobs, so much that it's almost become a buzzword. People are calling it the new sexy science. But what does it really mean? Because it's an evolving term, to understand it, we'd have to go back in history a little bit. Let's start with 1940, where the nifty tool of science is going to be the slide ruler. So any science that you want to do some research in, you've got to have a lot of math skills. You've got to know how to be able to do all the tricks to try to simplify things and make it a little easier. And out of all these sciences, right over here, bubble called statistics, where you're using mathematical tools to calculate probabilities with different distributional theory. Now, this model is not going to stay this way. Let's go ahead and move forward into 1960, where the groovy new tool are punch cards that you could put into those huge computers the size of a room. And thanks to that, statistics is now starting to bulge out a little bit. This is where we talk about how can we collapse all this data to be compact. And there's certain metrics we need, some maybe not so much, and the same could be said for all these sciences. They're kind of becoming their own thing. It's not just being a scientist. You've got to specialize. Are you chemistry or engineering? And each of these is going to use mathematics heavily, but only the pieces of mathematics that apply to them. I want you to notice a new player on the scene, business, which isn't just skilled entrepreneurs anymore. This is genuinely a science dedicated to what can all this data tell us about what was going on in the past. Speaking of the past, let's try moving forward to 1980, where some radical things are happening, fueled by the power of the computers. It's not just the big universities that have a computer anymore. Individuals can get their hands on a computer. So anyone wanting to do scientific research in any of these fields, which they all deserve their own bubble if I had room on my board, they all want to get the power of the computing with the power of math, because we need algorithms that aren't going to break the memory or slow down the computer too much. So for each one of these, we should draw a connection to the statistical analysis. And I want to take just one example, which is business, partly because in the data analysis fields right now, there's a lot of jobs in the business field. Their goal is going to be to use analysis with the computers to ask questions they might not be able to ask before. Instead of let's look at all the historical data, it's let's look at the data from this year. How quickly can you get me a prediction to be able to tell the future? Speaking of the future, some interesting things start happening as we move into the year 2000. Lots of areas to study, and every one of these plays a vital, important role in society. Businesses and researchers are wanting people who understand the math, but it's the pieces of math that they really need. They also need them to understand computer science, which may or may not be more than math, because you can leverage tricks you used to know the math for by a computer that'll just do it automatically. All of these sciences are pulling from statistics. Help us to know what can we really show. And statistics is starting to experience some divisions. Theoretical statistics, which is still very much a math topic, and applied statistics, which services these sciences in their particular field. And it's pulling strongly from a new area that's forming, computational statistics, being able to use the computer to help get some of those answers. And of all the computing tools that are being developed, one that's interesting for this discussion is called machine learning. The ability of the computer to take a data set and just start poking it and twisting it and turning it from every possible direction, looking for patterns that pop out. Something that would take a normal statistician a million years to do, and the computer is able to do it in a lot shorter time. This is very interesting to all these different studies. They're throwing data sets at machine learning and saying, tell me what patterns come up. And the computer crunches and crunches and crunches, and it says, hey, I found some interesting link between these variables that we would never have found before. Oh, that's interesting, and that can be published as a paper. But that being said, there is a problem that starts to arise of people hunting and searching for patterns and finding patterns that may not be reproducible. We have a saying in statistics that if you torture the data long enough, it'll scream anything you want it to. So some of these papers produced out of machine learning without looking into what question is trying to be answered here and what does this really tell us about the model that's behind it, because a lot of what comes out of machine learning is black box, meaning you're not really sure what the model says, just that the model seems to be making predictions. So there's a bit of an evolution that is trying to happen here, a way to make this not so much black box or random experimentation exploration. What we're going to see as we look forward into the future, in 2020, great things are happening in science thanks to researchers and all of these, thanks to businessmen who go to the IT department and say, go collect that data, run it through some algorithms, and then send that to the data scientist who's going to look at the results and the output and say, okay, here's where the data comes from, which implies here's how far we can take it, this is what it means, and this is what we can do with it. So who are these data scientists? They have math skills, especially in the theoretical statistics, so they could say independence of the data isn't working here. That means we change our interpretation in this way, and they also know how to do the analysis. If you have a question, here's where I go in the data, here's the method and procedure I'm going to use so that I can be able to answer that. And they have the computer skills that when the computer finds patterns, they know where the implications are, how far to take it, and what kind of decisions can be made from the data. They also have the skills to visualize what's going on so that they can then go and present and explain to other people and help them to understand. So if we were to go even further into the future, this is an area that would expand and bloom because this is how people are going to look at data to make decisions and to further science.